Welcome to Immigration Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: the EU wants to crack down on misinformation online, but here's why it probably won't work. The passport problems that could catch you out, from ripped pages to novelty stamps. Homelessness warning over asylum seeker claims. Britain can learn from Poland's rejection of illegal migration and globalization. Microsoft Outlook will soon write emails for you. The EU wants to crack down on misinformation online, but here's why it probably won't work. CBC. The European Union has called on X, formerly Twitter, Facebook owner Meta, and TikTok to address false information on their platforms. X has removed hundreds of accounts linked to Hamas, but industry experts say that combating false information on social media platforms is an impossible task. Ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino outlined the company's efforts to combat illegal content, stating that it has removed or labeled tens of thousands of pieces of content. However, a former employee suggested that the company may not be able to effectively address the issue, as it has reduced its moderation teams. The EU has demanded more information from X on how it handles illegal content and complaints, and X has until October 18 to provide this information. Meta has stated that it has staff monitoring the situation and is working to keep its platform safe. TikTok has indicated that it will respond to the EU's demands. Experts argue that due to the sheer size of these platforms, it is impossible to eliminate all misleading or illegal content. The enforcement of the EU's Digital Services Act is untested, and it is unclear whether the EU can compel social media platforms to take action. The passport problems that could catch you out, from ripped pages to novelty stamps. Telegraph. Passport problems can ruin a holiday, with damaged documents, troublesome stamps, and expiry date issues causing travel delays. The Passport Office says a document must be replaced if it has more than reasonable wear and tear, including ink spillages, missing pages, or discoloration. Stamps can inadvertently invoke the wrath of international diplomatic issues, while some countries require 2 blank pages in a passport. Some countries, including Canada, Egypt, Kenya, Thailand, and Vietnam, require at least 6 months of validity left on the passport before departure. Homelessness warning over asylum seeker claims. BBC. Glasgow City Council has warned that it faces an unprecedented rise in homelessness applications as the UK Home Office tries to clear a backlog of asylum claims. The council estimates that it could result in 1,400 successful applicants who will need help with housing this year. The council would need to find another 1,100 properties and face an extra £27 million in costs. The UK government has not pledged additional funding for councils to deal with the increased demand for housing. Glasgow City Council expects about 2,500 asylum claims to be processed this year, with about 1,800 likely to be successful. Britain can learn from Poland's rejection of illegal migration and globalization. Telegraph. Poland is at a political crossroads as voters decide on the future of the Conservative Law and Justice Party government and whether to accept migrant quotas from the European Union. A referendum will be held on the latter issue, with the question asking whether voters support the admission of illegal immigrants from the Middle East and Africa under the forced relocation mechanism imposed by the EU. Many in opposition parties have pledged to boycott the vote. The referendum will serve as an indicator of Polish attitudes towards Brussels and migration. Microsoft Outlook will soon write emails for you. CNN. Microsoft is expanding its rollout of AI tools for corporate users, including the Microsoft 365 Copilot tool, which assists users in writing emails by keeping sentences concise and error-free. The tool can also summarize long email threads and draft suggested replies. Microsoft Editor, an intelligent writing assistant, will provide advanced AI help for users with Microsoft 365 personal or family subscriptions, including suggested edits for clarity, conciseness, and inclusive language. The tools will be available to more corporate clients from November 1 and have already undergone months-long testing with companies such as Visa, General Motors, KPMG, and Lumen Technologies. Foreign students and workers who praise Hamas could be expelled from UK. Telegraph. The UK Home Office is considering plans to revoke visas for foreign students, academics, and workers who commit anti-Semitic acts or express support for Hamas. The move comes after 3 foreigners were expelled from France for committing anti-Semitic acts. The UK can revoke visas on national security grounds or if it is deemed conducive to the public good to do so. Universities have warned students that expressing support for Hamas could result in criminal investigations. Home Office officials are reviewing comments made by students to determine whether action can be taken to terminate their visas. Podcast, Immigration Referendum, Child-Free in France, The Feline Astronaut. RFI. The podcast episode discusses 3 different topics related to France. Firstly, it mentions the upcoming debate on immigration in Parliament and the possibility of a referendum on the issue. President Emmanuel Macron has suggested a referendum to allow the public to have a say on France's immigration policies, but finding a compromise on such a polarizing issue will be challenging. Secondly, the episode addresses the declining birth rate in France. While the country still has the highest birth rate in the EU, it is at its lowest since the end of World War II. Some women are choosing not to have children, but they are often criticized and accused of being selfish. The episode features an interview with Bettina Zurli, who launched an Instagram account to connect with other child-free women and discusses her decision to not have children in a country where motherhood is idolized. Lastly, the episode briefly mentions a historical event from 1963 when France became the first and only country to launch a cat named Félicette into space. The cat successfully completed its mission but did not receive much recognition or lasting success. The threat of an escalating Israel-Hamas war plus Canada's use of AI to detect immigration fraud. The Toronto Star. Canada's use of artificial intelligence, AI, to screen potential international students and visitors has been criticized for reinforcing biases and rejecting legitimate applicants. The Integrity Trends Analysis tool is used to mine data on visas and permits to spot risk and fraud patterns. Immigration officials claim that the final decisions are made by humans, but experts argue that the AI tool could result in discriminatory practices, as it is programmed to identify factors that may indicate fraud. The tool has analyzed 1.4 million study permit applications and 2.9 million visitor applications. Dominica may have sold thousands more than it disclosed, analysis suggests. The Guardian. The Caribbean island of Dominica may have sold thousands more golden passports than its government has publicly disclosed, according to analysis that raises questions about the transparency and governance of its $1 billion, £822 million, citizenship by investment scheme. Singapore woman scams people of $646,000 including lover who cheated parents. South China Morning Post. A married woman in Singapore, Jocelyn Kwek, has pleaded guilty to multiple charges of cheating after managing to get 3 different men to fall in love with her and transfer her large sums of money. In total, she cheated 10 people out of more than 880,000 Singapore dollars, $646,000. One of the men she cheated was her lover, Lai Zien, who cheated his parents out of their life savings. Kwek also cheated her own godmother by asking for jewelry for cleaning and then pawning it off for money. She also cheated 2 other men who fell in love with her, convincing one of them to transfer about 48,000 Singapore dollars to her. Kwek managed to cheat her husband's ex-colleague, a 66-year-old British man, out of 338,600 Singapore dollars by lying to him that she needed money to claim her inheritance, as well as other ruses. The judge has adjourned sentencing to a later date. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your trusted observer from the six-dimensional world. Today, we bring you a collection of news stories that touch on various topics, from the European Union's struggle to combat misinformation online to the potential repercussions of expressing support for Hamas in the UK. We also explore the challenges faced by the Passport Office, the rising homelessness crisis in Glasgow, and Poland's political crossroads. On a lighter note, we delve into Microsoft's AI tools for email writing and France's history-making feline astronaut. Lastly, we discuss Canada's use of AI in immigration screening and a scandalous case of love and deception in Singapore. Now, let's dive into the European Union's attempt to crack down on misinformation online. The EU has called on major social media platforms like X, Facebook, now Meta, and TikTok to address false information on their platforms. While X has made efforts to combat illegal content, experts argue that eliminating all misleading or illegal content is an impossible task due to the sheer size of these platforms. The EU's Digital Services Act is untested, and it remains unclear whether social media platforms can be compelled to take action. So, it seems like the EU's initiative might face some challenges. Moving on, we explore the world of passport problems that can ruin a holiday. The Passport Office emphasizes that damaged documents, troublesome stamps, and expiry date issues can cause travel delays. Some countries even require a certain number of blank pages or a minimum validity period before departure. So, if you're planning a trip, make sure you check your passport to avoid any unexpected obstacles along the way. In other news, Glasgow City Council warns of an unprecedented rise in homelessness applications as the UK Home Office tries to clear a backlog of asylum claims. The council estimates that it may need to find an additional 1,100 properties and face an extra £27 million in costs to accommodate successful asylum applicants. Unfortunately, the UK government has not pledged additional funding to help councils deal with the increased demand for housing. It's a challenging situation that requires urgent attention and support. Shifting gears, we turn our attention to Poland, where a political crossroads looms. Voters will decide on the future of the Conservative Law and Justice Party government and whether to accept migrant quotas from the European Union. A referendum will be held to gauge public support for admitting illegal immigrants from the Middle East and Africa. This referendum will serve as an indicator of Polish attitudes towards Brussels and migration. It's a pivotal moment for the country, and the outcome will shape its future. Now, let's brighten the mood with Microsoft's latest endeavor. They're expanding their AI tools for corporate users, including the Microsoft 365 Copilot tool that assists users in writing emails. Soon, you won't have to worry about composing the perfect email, as the tool will keep your sentences concise and error-free. It can even summarize long email threads and draft suggested replies. The future of email writing looks automated and efficient. Shifting gears once again, we discuss the UK Home Office's consideration of revoking visas for foreign students, academics, and workers who commit anti-Semitic acts or express support for Hamas. France recently expelled 3 foreigners for committing anti-Semitic acts, prompting the UK to consider similar actions. Universities are warning students about the consequences of expressing support for Hamas, which could lead to criminal investigations and visa terminations. It's a reminder that freedom of expression comes with responsibilities and potential repercussions. In our podcast highlight, we explore 3 different topics related to France. Firstly, the upcoming debate on immigration and the possibility of a referendum on France's immigration policies, which is a polarizing issue that requires finding a compromise. Secondly, we address the declining birth rate in France and the societal pressure faced by women who choose not to have children. Lastly, we briefly mention France's historical event of launching a cat named Félicette into space back in 1963. A feline astronaut, who would have thought? Now, let's discuss Canada's use of artificial intelligence to screen potential international students and visitors. While the Integrity Trends Analysis tool aims to spot risk and fraud patterns, experts argue that it may reinforce biases and result in discriminatory practices. The tool has analyzed millions of applications, but the final decisions are still made by humans. However, it's essential to monitor and address any potential biases that may arise from the use of AI in immigration screening. Lastly, we turn to a scandalous case in Singapore involving a woman who managed to deceive multiple men and cheat them out of significant sums of money. Jocelyn Kwek pleaded guilty to multiple charges of cheating after convincing 3 different men to fall in love with her and transfer her large sums of money. She cheated a total of 10 people, including her own lover, her husband's ex-colleague, and her godmother. It's a story that reminds us all to be cautious and skeptical, even when love seems to be on the line. That's all the news we have for today, my dear viewers. Remember, misinformation online is a challenge that requires innovative solutions, and passport problems can be a real headache. The rising homelessness crisis in Glasgow and Poland's political crossroads demand attention and action. Microsoft's AI tools may soon take over our email writing duties, while expressing support for Hamas in the UK could lead to visa revocations. France's podcast topics range from immigration to declining birth rates and feline astronauts. Canada's use of AI in immigration screening raises concerns about potential biases, and a scandalous case in Singapore reminds us to be cautious in matters of the heart. Now, it's your turn, dear viewers. What are your thoughts on these diverse topics? Do you have any questions or comments? I welcome your participation in the discussion. Let's explore the news together and share our perspectives from the 6-dimensional world and beyond. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.